So today I want to show you how to install these SteadyRack bike mounts here. And I'm also at the end going to be going through some of the pros and cons of these in case you're interested in getting something like this. Now these are relatively easy to install, but there are some very common mistakes that people make that I made when mounting this first one that I want to go through and show you. And basically the most efficient way to actually get this thing up and ready to go. And then as far as tools you're going to need, you're going to want a drill for sure, and then a stud finder, a tape measure, and then you're either going to want a 10mm socket wrench or an impact driver. Because these screws are really long, you're going to want one of those in order to drive the screws in. And then you will want a 8mm and a 10mm drill bit to pre-drill your holes. And then I find it is helpful to have a level as well. This is everything that comes in the box. You basically have the main mount, and then you have the back tire mount. You have the 4 screws here, and then you have these wall mounts for masonry if you're putting this into stone. Chances are most people will be putting it into studs, so you don't need to worry about those. And then you have these smaller screws for this little thing down here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is actually measure your bike and make sure this will fit on your bike, and then get the measurements for where you want to put this on the wall. Now, in order to do that, you want to actually put this thing down into the tires. Now, on the top here, there's these little things that pop off. So you're going to want to pop these off. You kind of push them together, and they'll pop off just like this. And you want to find the one that says top here. That's very important. Make sure you find the one that says top. Grab the top part, and then put that towards the top of the front tire here. Lift that up, lift the tire up. Push that all the way down, make sure it's all the way back, and then grab your bike here and put it into the front tire. Then once you have that in place, then you want to actually go through and measure the front of the mount all the way to the back of the tire. What I found is really helpful is to grab like a box or a piece of wood and put that against one end of the tire, and then put another piece of wood on the other edge of the tire, or the other edge here. That way you have just a flat surface to measure the bike. So I can just grab my tape measure, put that on that end, and they're both just right against the tires here. And you can see then I have a measurement of 66 inches here. So that means when I'm mounting this top bracket, I want to go up 66 inches on the wall. So keep note of that, mark that down, and then we're gonna go to the wall. Okay, so 66 inches is basically from the floor to here if I wanted the bike to kind of rest just barely off of the floor. But you can see in my case particularly, I have this little concrete that kind of comes up on this lift. So I wanted to mount these above the concrete. So I went 66 inches from this concrete right here to mount this, and that's what I'm gonna be doing in this case as well. So if you wanted these further off of the ground, take that into account when you are mounting them. If you wanted them directly just off the ground, then you could just go up to 66 inches. But we're gonna go basically 66 inches from this concrete up here. And then of course, before you mount these, make sure you go through and find your studs. And once you've found your studs, another thing to keep in mind is the bars hitting each other on the bike. So remember, these can swivel in and out. And so if your studs are too close to each other and you have the same height of bike, the handlebars will hit against each other unless you're laying them flat over here. So I'm gonna be putting it kind of on this stud next to it. It's a little bit more of a space, but I plan on putting them out this way. But if you have your bikes facing out this way, then they might hit each other. So you might want to stagger where the bikes go. Something else to keep in mind with these, because you can put them any kind of way. Okay, so we got our 66 inches marked right here. Don't mind all these other holes. That is from a previous mount that I had that I did not like, and I'll tell you about that later. But now that we have that marked, then we can go through and grab our mount, put it right below that 66 inches. And then this is where I recommend having a marker and a level. Just go through and put this level on the side to make sure that your mount is level, of course. So that looks good. We are on the stud. So then we can go through and just quickly mark the middle sections. Okay, and when you are mounting this just to the studs, you only need to worry about these 2 holes right here. These 2 are for masonry. You can basically ignore them if you're putting in the studs. So you can see I just marked holes where the other ones are gonna go. And I kind of have it mixed up because my hands are right there, but now we have those in place, so we're gonna go through and pre-drill our holes. So this is where we will be using that 10mm drill bit here to pre-drill these holes. Okay, so once again, make sure that this top is facing up there. On the bottom, you won't see any stickers. You will have to take off that bracket there. If for whatever reason the sticker isn't there, the S should be on the bottom here. So now we're gonna take one of these big bolts here and screw it in with our pre-drill on this top. And this is where you're gonna want the drill or the wrench. So I'm just gonna start that. I'm gonna start it with the drill and then finish it with the wrench. So we're gonna grab this, put that in there. You can see the drill only gets it so far, at least gets it started for us. I'm gonna get all of these in here and then I'm gonna go through and tighten them with the wrench. Okay, so you can see we have our 4 screws in there, but they're not all the way in. That's about as far as the drill would take them. So now we're gonna go through and grab the socket and screw these things in until they're flat against the wall, basically. So you can see just how sturdy these screws are. And this makes it so these do not go anywhere because all 4 of these are directly in the studs. You will want to make sure, of course, you have these in the studs. I wouldn't recommend not doing that, but I'm going to go through and get these all tightened up and then see what it looks like after. So you can see we have those now flush against the wall, looking nice. So now we can take these little covers here and they just pop on. You kind of got to force them down on there, but they'll kind of clip into it, just like this, kind of force it into there and they'll pop in. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but you can see they're just popping in. All right, so we got those popped in and this thing is super solid. It's not going anywhere and looking very good on that wall. So now it's time to go through and actually throw our bike on there so that we can get the measurement on where to put the little bottom thing. Okay, so you can see that is looking awesome, but we are not done yet. What we want to do is mark where the tire is touching the wall. So what I'll do is I'll mark where the top and bottom are. Just go right here. Boom, boom, just mark those. And then it's good to have a level so you can make sure that you're level right down here. Okay, so now we want to make sure that the bottom one lines up with the top mount. So what I like to do is just grab a straight board here. I have my 2 marks to know where my tires are touching, and then I'll grab a level here. Just make sure that this board is level, get it in place, put it in the center. So put the board in the center of the mount. So right here you can see I have it in the center so that I know where the center of the bottom one is supposed to go. So I'm just gonna go through and mark that. So now I have my center point here and you need to go through and grab the mount, get it into place where you want it to be, and then grab your 8mm, I believe it is 8mm drill bit here and drill these holes. Then we're going to take the smaller screws that they provide, the 2 smaller screws, get those started in there, and then we'll finish them off with the wrench. Or you could use an impact driver as well for these. Maybe we'll try the impact driver, see how far it'll get for us. The impact driver got it for us on that one. So you can see that is going to give us our little mount for the back of the bike. Oh man, and look at that. We have this all installed now here. You see that, what that looks like? So now you can see the great thing about these is I can move the bikes over this way, all the way to the wall. I can move them up this way, all the way over to the wall, or I can keep them directly out. And this is why it's important to make sure that they're spacing enough between the studs, because if these were a little bit closer, the bars would probably start hitting each other. Let me get you a better view of that. They'd probably start hitting each other. But you can see when there's directly out, they take up quite a bit of space. So being able to just simply go through and put these to the side saves so much room. Okay, so now let's talk about the pros and cons of this mount. Now, the first pro is that they do not leave a lot of tire marks. You can see here that before I had a mount that I did not like as much, and it left a ton of tire marks. So that's a huge benefit. Like the tires do not touch the walls at all, so you're not gonna have marks against the wall. Maybe the only point that you may get it is over here, but no tire marks. The second, of course, huge selling point with these is the fact of how much space you can actually save. You can see here, because I mounted these up off the ground, I can fit a lawnmower under here, I can put boxes under here, and then instead of them sticking all the way out like this, now I can go through and I can push them to the side, and it is crazy how much room that actually saves. You can see here on this old mount when I had it just kind of sticking out, there was only one option and it stuck out so far that I couldn't really store anything in that side of the wall. The next thing that I like is that you can customize which studs they go on, and you don't have to worry about the spacing of your studs. With other mounts, you have to make sure that the studs are the perfect width away, and that kind of limits the places where you can put these. But with these, because they only mount to one stud, each one mounts to one stud, you can customize where you put them and how you want them to look. And last, this is kind of an opinion thing, but I think they look really nice. They look like a nice mount. They don't look cheesy. They look really good with your bikes. So that is another huge pro. Now, the biggest con with these is probably actually one of the reasons why you buy it in the first place. But the biggest con with this, especially if you're lifting it up from the ground and you have it higher than I've mounted it is annoying that this thing swivels at times, because when you're trying to put it up, sometimes the tire will hit it and it'll move it over this way, and it makes it a little bit difficult. I wish that there was a version where you could lock this so it didn't move, so you could load the bike without it going back and forth on you. And let me kind of show you what I mean, because when you are just loading it from the ground, it's not that bad, but when you have to actually lift up the bike up here, you can see when you go to lift it up, you can bump the tire right there, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, and you got to try and adjust it like this and have the tire up there. So It's probably not gonna be a problem for most people if you are loading it from the ground, but if you are lifting it up like I am, that can be a little bit frustrating. But honestly, that is really the only con with these. As you can see, I started off with one of them and I liked it so much that I bought another, and I will probably buy a third one as well, and it's probably gonna be the only bike mount that I use from here on forward because I've used other ones that just haven't been as good. Links to these will be down below if you wanted to check those out. I'll also link out all the tools in case you're wondering what tools you need. I'll link those down below as well so you can get those really quickly to get these installed for yourself. Now that you have your bikes all organized in your garage, I recommend checking out this video right here to organize the rest of your garage. I literally spent the last month scouring Amazon for the best organization tools for your garage. So check out that video right there, and we'll see you in the next one.